Today, in this video, we want to know about CMIP6 data download, and we want to find this answer that how can we download CMIP6 models under SSP scenarios. This video is from Agrimsoft Research Company with www.agrimsoft.com link address. Okay, what are the main concepts in this video? After this video, we know about CMIP phases, WGCM, WCRP, SSP, and finally about DEC. Okay, before about know about downscale CMIP6 data models, it is better to review some of the concepts in this related that models and scenarios. Okay, you know, recent 2 decades, researchers try to develop different models as GCM models to understand about future climate change and also about future climate weather variables. Okay, so consider that we divided all the universe in different scores in horizontal grid in latitude and longitude and in vertical grid such as height and also pressure. With different physical process and as well dynamical process, the researchers try to model future events under climate change events. In this regard, they try to model, simulate, or projection precipitation, solar radiation, temperature, sea ice, and sea surface temperature, and the other related variables. So they use different sophisticated and different hard uh, modeling and also physical concepts. So if we can know about these squares in different resolution, in time resolution and in spatial resolution, then after we can download and understand the CMIP6 models better. Okay, we want to know about CMIP. CMIP is a project of the World Climate Research Program, WCRP's working group of coupled modeling. We call it WGCM. Since 1995, CMIP has coordinated climate model experiments involving multiple international modeling teams worldwide. Different companies in all around the world from different countries try to develop different models, various models, to facilitate the projection of weather climate for future climate changes. Okay, CMIP has led to a better understanding of past, present, and as well future climate change and variability in a multimodal framework. In CMIP models, we have 3 periods of time. One of them for past or paleoclimate data, the other for present, and also for future data in future decades. CMIP defines common experiment protocols, forcing and outputs. In this regard, CMIP and also DEC try to simulate common experiments for human beings living under different criteria for better projection. About DEC, DEC is diagnostic, evaluation, and also characterization of climate. It is instead of DEC. And also CMIP, it's called coupled model intercomparison projects. And both of them are trying to make a better projection for common experiment under different scenarios. CMIP, as I told you before, have has different phases. CMIP 3, according to a fourth assessment report IPCC in IPCC, CMIP 3 is developed. Both of them are tried to make models in different scenarios such as A, B, AB, A1, and the rest between A and B and the others in these families. These are different scenarios regard to, for example, social, economical concepts about CO2 and the other uh, definitions as located in scenarios. After that, in 2007, CMIP 5 was developed with simultaneously in, for example, in a common sense, in a common time. I mean that in fifth assessment report, we call it RR5 assessment report, fifth assessment report of IPCC. After that, CMIP 6 nowadays is developing. It is under developing, and different models also is publishing. It is not complete, but it would be published as sixth assessment report of IPCC, and because of during I mean that scenarios the under different scenarios that we call it SSP. So if you want to know that what is CMIP 6, it is actually honestly CMIP 6 is essentially a continuation and also extension of CMIP 5. Researchers try develop CMIP 5 and also solve different issues in CMIP 5 under RCP scenarios. So they try to develop a new scenarios with name of SSP. In CMIP 6, we have different variables. If you want to know better about the data and definitions, different, I mean that limitations or maybe criteria and other things, please download this PDF file. It helps you to better understand about different variables in CMIP 6. All right, you know, as I told you, CMIP 6 in sixth assessment report of IPCC under shared socio-economic pathways. It stands SSP. And SSP divided to 5 different categories. Fundamentally, I mean that. But we have different subsections in each these main categories. But the first one is SSP 1, sustainability. It considers sustainability. SSP 2, the middle of the road. The middle of the road represent the SSP 2 scenarios. And the third one, SSP 3, and the fourth one, inequality, SSP 4, and the last one, SSP 5, fossil fuel development. As you can see in this graph, we have 2 different components in different axes. In horizontal one, challenge to adaptation, and in vertical ones, challenge to mitigation. I mean that these both graphs, fifth scenarios, fifth SSP scenarios would be changed. There are different changes and different concepts involved in these scenarios, but in this video I don't have aim to clarification and make description for these scenarios, but in the next video I clarify it better for you in another video. So we have, if you want to start to download CMIP 6 model and download the variables and the related data, you need to make a user account, create a user account. In this regard, you have 4 gates, 4 measure gates. The first one is related to USA, PCMDI. This link can guide you to download CMIP 6 model. The second main gate for friends, IPSL. With this link also, you can make a user account and go to your profile and download different data of CMIP6. The third one is Germany, DKRZ. Maybe you heard about DKRZ. It is so essential gate that has lots of different publications and also models for CMIP5, CMIP6, IMA, and the other teams, MIP, in it for climate change conditions. And the last one, the fourth, for UK, United Kingdom, with name of CEDA. By this link also, you can create a user account and use different models of CMIP6. You know, another last point related to CMIP6, I prefer to, uh, that tell you, as I told you before and showed the global map with different grids, I told you CMIP6 models have different spatial and as well temporal resolution, but in spatial resolution, each of the grids has coarse resolution, and in some of your goals it wouldn't be applicable for you. For example, if you want to predict the changes of a basin and analyze the hydrological component in a basin such as IDF curves, runoff, and the other related concepts, a big course grid, it wouldn't be applicable for you. So you need to a finer resolution. After you download your CMIP6 data download and download them, you need to make a finer resolution. So for obtaining a finer resolution, you should use two fundamental approaches. The first one is statistical downscaling, and the last one is dynamical downscaling. Microsoft team has developed different methods in this regard. One of them about statistical downscaling of CMIP5, CMIP6 models with name of SDGCM tool. Let me to show you in our website. When you go to our website, agrimasoft.com, go to product and as well go commercial tools with name of SDGCM. With these tools, you can downscale your CMIP6 or CMIP5 data models in a statistical downscaling approaches, three different methods. You can go there and see and visit the video for better understanding. I invite you to do and use it. It is so, that a good and healthy, useful model for you, useful software tool for you. Okay, I back in this website to do another to tell you another important tools, but now it is the turn off. That down how can be downscaling CMIP, download CMIP6 models output. Okay, with this address link, or maybe with four different gates that I showed to you, DCARZ and the other rest from ESGF, you can download CMIP6 models under different scenarios. But as you can see here on the left side of your window, you can see different panels. I try to show you some of them. When you want to download a model, you need to set up some of them, such as, for example, your intent model and CMIP6 series, the frequency, your intent frequency, and the last one would be in, that scenarios. Okay, as I told you, we have different panels here. The first one, MIP ERR. There is one of them, one option here, CMIP6, so we select it. The other one with name of activity. We have different activities here. If you want to know better about them, you can search in related websites such as this one. If you go to this link for CMIP6, We can find different items about activities and better understanding about them. So, you know, for example, GeoMap, high resolution map, for example, ocean map, and the rest of them, scenario map, these are different activities that can help us to use different ensemble models of CMIP6. If you have enough information about the selection of that, for example, each of them, you can select every one of them that you want. But if you don't know a better description about your selected activity of your model, don't select anything. But since we want to use the output of CMIP, I click this one, CMIP. Okay, the third one about model coherent here, just one item. If select or not, it is not important because one item here about the product. We want to use output model. So select it, for example, here, and source ID. We have different source IDs here. If you have enough information about the related model, you can use it. If not, it is better don't select anything. For example, if your model is CESM, you can select the related model CESM. If not, for example, here, CESM. But actually, when you want to use, it is better before you download the model, go to the selected model, go to your aim model, and find about, for example, the definition, the resolution, frequency, available frequency, and scenarios about that model, and then select and finally download it. But in this case, because it is an example, for example, I select GFDL, one of the important model that used in different papers. You can study them. So it depends on your project. If you want to use different models, you can select different of them. But if you want to use, for example, one of them, it just only depends on your case study and your project. About institution ID, these are different, the definitions of the institution that they develop the model. But for example, in this case, I'm not sure about the institution ID, so it is not important for me to select that institution ID. So I omit the selection. Source type. Also, we have different source type here, such as chemical source type, such as atmospheric ocean GCM source type, and the rest one. Just for example, atmospheric GCM, So it essentially depends on your, that intent to source type selection. About nominal resolution also, we have different model in, for example, 10 kilometer in resolution, spatial resolution, or in degree. Honestly, I'm not enough information. I don't have enough information from the selected model, and as well, I don't know is it available for this model, for example, 100 kilometer in resolution or no. So I prefer to don't select anything. Okay, if you have enough information about the available spatial resolution of your selected model, it is better to select it because you decrease the final result that would be appeared in this place after your selection. That if you restrict your criteria in the left panel, after that you can find the best of that models and scenarios and the rest things. Okay, by the way, for experiment ID also we have different experiment ID. It is so important for if you, for example, know about your model, your scenarios, and the rest one. Okay, so for example, for historical data, it is better to know to clarify another tips to you. For CMIP 5, 6 models, we have different datas. For different periods, we have 2 periods. For downscaling, that using them for future. One of them is historical data, that you can make an evaluation process with your observation data. What I mean about observation data. As you know, observation data, it depends on your station in your case study. For example, synoptic station or hydrologic station, hydrometry station, agricultural station. We have different stations in different kinds of variables and city data. I mean that. So if we want to make an evaluation process, you should use historical data and in another side observation data. So for experiment ID, for CMIP6, also for CMIP5, you should select historical as historical period and also the last one for your scenarios. In CMIP5, we have RCP scenarios, but as I told you before, in CMIP6, we have SSP scenarios. If you want to make a projection for future in mean and average state, it is better to select SSP 2, 4, 5. So I select this one for making a medium, that projection. If you want to use another SSP such as this one, 2, 6, or maybe and the rest one, 17 and the others, you can select the others, okay? So in this sample, both of them historical and as well SSP245 is sufficient for my sample. After experiment ID, you need to sub-experiment. If you want to use dedical or maybe for a decade, you can select some of these, that sub-experiment, but I don't need them. For variable labor, you know, we have in different companies try to make assembling between different models, different runs, and every time they try to improve their outputs and CMIP6. So as you can see here, every run of their models with different numbers and different definitions. You can find RPF, and I want to make another video with deep clarification of these values, but in this video I don't want to clarify the details. So for example, if I want to select for example one of these that variable variant label, I can select one of them. If not, because I don't have enough information that this model that I select GFDL have which one of these that variant label is related to my select model, so I made this selection. For also grid label, we have different grid label here. It is not important in my sample. Table ID also, it has different uh, temporal resolution, as you can see here, in monthly scale, in daily scale, as well in hourly scale. So it is not important in my sample. The most important one, or maybe the second one after selection, your name of a model, the model that you want to download, the second one is frequency. For example, in my sample, I want to use hourly data for IDF curves. I want to calculate IDF curves, so I need precipitation data in hourly scale. So I select GFDL model in 1 hour as temporal frequency. Okay, I select it. And after this selection, the next item related to different, I mean that uh, concepts such as aerosol, atmosphere, atmosphere besides chemical concept, land ice, oceans, and the other things. If you, it is, that important for you to use the specific one, you can select that one as the this concept in this section. The last one is variable. It is important to you to select variables. Okay, for example, for precipitation, I want to download precipitation data. And the precipitation data, I know that it is abbreviation of PR, okay? So I should select PR as precipitation. So I select PR as precipitation. If I want to use, for example, temperature, I know that temperature, the abbreviation is TAS. So I should try to find TAS as temperature, like this one, TAS. If I want to use maximum temperature, this one is maximum temperature, and the other for minimum temperature. You know, uh, there is, as I told you before, there is a complete output description for CMIP6 that you can find and download them, as I told you before, as a PDF file, and study them for better understanding the abbreviation of each variables, the frequency, the table ID, the companies, and the other things. Okay, so it is finished, and the other is not important for me. For CF standard name, for data node, okay. So everything is finished at this time. I select my model, the related frequency, and as well my variables for download the GFDL model in this sample. So before I click this search, as I told you before, when you want to go to this website, if you have a account, you can go to login and go to your account and use the model and download this model that you want, every model. If you don't have any account, you can create account. Click create account and go to create account page. You should enter your name, your address of email, and the other features of you, and select this that create an account for you to download them and get different data of CMIP6 but via email. Okay, I click search, and after a while you can see it. Actually it depends your selection in the left panel. If you select different criteria, the lots of different criteria, the time of search is so limited. If you don't select for example the details, so you need more time to select difference, that of your models. In this sample, since I select some of the criteria that these are not related to GFDL, for example, the GFDL don't have hourly data. So as you can see here, I don't have any outputs here. So I deselect hourly data because the GFDL model don't have any hourly data as an output. So I deleted it, and now I can see that GFDL have different, for example, historical data in what the that temporal scale, in 3 hour, in monthly, in daily scale, and the rest. These are for historical. If I want to go to another page, you can see it just 5 items. So it doesn't have with this criteria for future. So, if you select some of the models that they are not enough criteria for your selected model, such as, for example, GFDL, as my result, just I found 5, that outputs with this regard. Okay, for example, in this sample, I want to download GFDL in historical data with this ensemble and run items in 3 hours as that mm, temporal scale. So for download this file, click list files. With click list files, you can see how many files in this model with these characteristics. I can see, wow, it, this that criteria gets me 9 files, and if I want to use this model, I should download all of them, and after that merge this model, or maybe select my intent area of my case study area. It is after that, after you download your model, you have another problem with how can you downscale this model, how can you extract your intent area of your case study. So I tell you, okay, all right. In this turn, you should for download this file, you can click on HTTP download, and after that you can the download is start, and you can download it on your I mean that on your PC and on your laptop. If you want to use another tool, such as for example download manager tool, you can click right click and select save excuse me, copy link address, and after copy link address you can paste on download internet download manager, and speeding up your process to download this model. If not, by click on http download, your system start to download it this I mean that file in your system. Okay, at this time, all the things is finished. I hope so. I hope that you can understand very well this process to download your intense CMIP6 model and also intense scenarios. Okay, after you download your model, you need to extract your, as you can see here, my download is a start here. So I want to cancel it because the capacity of this file is so high. So I prefer to stop it. So if you want to go to agrimasoft.com link, you can use one of an important tool that we develop in this website with name of OpenNCPod. If you want to view your CMIP6 data after you download your intent file, for just view that data, you can use Panoply tool. But if you want to extract your case study, for example, a region on that file, or if you want to merge the files and extract a series of time of that, for example, GFDL data in historical time, or maybe under SSP scenario. So this tool is so fascinating for you, OpenNCPod. It is really fantastic tool for extracting data to make a time series of your files and extracting your data. As I told you before, since CMIP6 and CMIP5 have coarse resolution, so it wouldn't be applicable for you to use them for a small case. So you should downscale them. In this regard, for downscaling them, SDGCM tool that Agrimasoft research team developed for you. With this tool, you can use three important statistical downscaling for find and also obtain a finer resolution of your CMIP6 or 5 outputs. Okay, I invite you to subscribe our channel, Alchemist Theme in YouTube, and click subscription to make a subscribe to also for giving, that know about new videos. I try to prepare new videos about CMIP 5, difference between CMIP 5 and 6, and the other rest details about variables data in CMIP 6 and the others. Have a nice time. Bye bye.